Are you suffering from pain in your Achilles tendon that just won't go away, and you're trying to exercise through it, but you're not sure if you're doing something wrong? Well, if that's you right now, hopefully this video will have the answers you need. My name is Harlow and I'm the Over-Fifties Specialist Physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the exercises you need to avoid if you have Achilles tendinitis. Now, the Achilles tendon is the big fat tendon at the back of the ankle, okay? So it lives here. If you can see that here, it's just at the back. Sort of if you find the back of your shoe and you come up above it, you can feel the Achilles tendon right there. And the Achilles tendon is one of the biggest tendons, if not the biggest, in the whole body. It's very strong and it connects the calf to the heel. Now, it's possible to develop a problem in the Achilles tendon, which we could either call tendinitis, which is an old-fashioned name, or tendinopathy, which is the new name. And what that usually involves is pain and stiffness and soreness in that tendon when people exercise or first thing in the morning. And we think of this as an overuse injury. It's more common in people who do sport and other active hobbies, and it's more common in people over the age of 50. So it's a really common injury. It's something that can happen quite a lot. For some people it comes and goes, for other people it comes and just gets worse and worse. Now, the good news about it is we can usually fix an Achilles tendinitis with conservative treatment. So they usually do not need surgery or injections or anything like that. But what they do need to get better is activity modification. So we need to change some of the things that you're doing in order to allow it to get better. So quite often I'll see people in the clinic who are very fit and active, and they're saying, I've got this Achilles pain, it just won't go away. I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And when they tell me what they've been doing, I can usually pick out a couple of things that might have been preventing the problem from getting better. Now, before I tell you what those things are, it might help to just have a quick explanation of what causes the pain. Now, the Achilles tendon is a very complicated structure. So tendons aren't like ligaments where they're just, flat bands of tissue. They are full of lots of different cells and they have lots of different jobs within that tissue. So when it gets injured, it can be quite a complicated healing process. So if we're asking our Achilles to do a job that it's not quite strong enough to do, it can develop this tendinitis. So it often comes on for people who walk and they're trying to increase their walking, or for runners who are training for a marathon or a half marathon and they are trying to increase their mileage, and then the pain starts. And it's usually because there's a supply and demand mismatch between what you're asking of the tendon and the strength you have in that tissue. So really what we're trying to say here is that to build up the strength around the calf and the Achilles, that's the way to treat the problem. And you might be thinking, okay, so if I exercise, that's going to make it stronger. And yeah, you're right, but you have to make sure you avoid the things that are stopping it from getting better. So I'm going to tell you what those things are now and why they might aggravate the Achilles tendon and why you should stop doing them. So the first thing that you should probably stop doing until this problem starts to feel better is running. Now, running is an interesting exercise because every time we push off from our toes when we run, we're actually putting more than our body weight through our foot. So the force that's going through our foot into the ground is actually more than our body weight because we have to push against something called the ground reaction force as well. Now, if we do this a couple of times, we can get away with it. But if you're trying to run long distances, every time you're pushing through your foot, your entire calf and the Achilles is having to contract to propel your body, which means it's getting a hell of a lot of work. And if it's already a bit inflamed, already a bit aggravated, running is certainly not going to help. Now, if you're a runner, you don't necessarily have to just stop running dead. What I would recommend you do is you cut back your distance rather than stopping like that. Keep cutting it back until you can find a distance that doesn't aggravate the Achilles or if it keeps hurting, you might have to have a rest entirely. Now, one of the risks from carrying on running if you have an Achilles tendinitis is that on a very small number of people, this can turn into a full Achilles rupture. And that is one of the most serious sporting injuries. It would put you out of action for a whole year. So you really want to try and avoid that. Now, for a similar reason, the second thing that you should avoid if you have Achilles tendinitis is any sports that involve lots of changes of direction or lots of jumping. Now, this is the exact same reason as we avoid running, but on a higher level. So if we're changing direction from running left to right, let's say we're playing squash, for example, and you plant your foot and then you push off the other way, you're not just pushing off your body weight, you're pushing something like 3 or 4 times your body weight, because you have the force going down towards the floor and then the force coming back through the leg as you spring off. Quite simply, this can just sometimes be overload for the tendon and it can make the injury worse. Same with jumping. So if you spring all the way down and then jump as high as you can, you're not just pushing your body weight, you're actually pushing against the ground. So the force that travels through your legs, through your calf and through your Achilles is much more like 3 or 4 times your body weight than just 1 time. So we need to be very careful about these things that involve lots of springy actions. So sports that involve jumping and changes of direction should be a no-go until the problem is better. Now, the third thing you need to avoid, and this is probably the one that surprises people the most, and this is a relevant piece of advice for people whose Achilles tendon pain is down near the heel, and this is to avoid stretching the calves and the Achilles tendon. So I'm just going to show you my ankle now and show you exactly the area I'm talking about. So for many people with this problem, the Achilles tendon pain is here. And for most people, if your Achilles tendon pain is here, halfway up the Achilles, this is the whole Achilles here. So if it's halfway up, stretching is generally okay. Now, for some people, the Achilles tendon pain is right down here near the heel bone. And if that's you, so the pain is down here, stretching the Achilles by stretching the calf is actually quite a bad idea. And the reason that's the case is because when we stretch the calf, when you put the knee over the toes in a lunging position to stretch it, you can often compress the bottom of the tendon against something called a bursa, which is a little fluid sac which sits just beneath the tendon, between the tendon and the heel bone, and helps to cushion it. Now, in people who have pain right down near the heel, often we find that the bursa is inflamed as well. So if we compress the bursa by stretching it, we can often make it worse. So I always tell people to avoid stretching their calves if they have an Achilles tendon problem until a professional has been able to look at them and say yes or no as to whether stretching is a good idea for them. So as a default, for most people with Achilles tendon problems, I would say don't stretch it. What it needs instead is strengthening. It might have been caused by a tight calf, but just by resolving the tightness in the calf, you're not going to get rid of the tendon problem without strengthening. Okay, so try not to stretch until you've been examined by a professional and instead opt for strengthening. So those are the 3 things to be very wary of if you have Achilles tendinitis. So number 1 is running. Number 2 is sports with changes of direction and jumping. And number 3 is stretching the calf or the Achilles tendon. So try and avoid those things, and that should help your Achilles tendon get better quicker. Anyway, I hope that has been a useful episode for you. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out, or you can pick up a copy of my book, which has a whole chapter in it about Achilles tendons and how to fix them. The book is called Thriving Beyond 50, and you can get it on Amazon using the link below this video. Other than that, please do subscribe to the channel and like the video, because it really helps me to reach more people. And if you have suggestions for questions you'd like answering on videos like this, please do feel free to leave a comment below. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. I appreciate your time very much, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next video.